Our first keynote speaker will be David Ojimba, the head of Treasury and Operations at HarpFi. And to read his keynote address, my apologies. To read his citation, I'll be welcoming on stage a member of the GDG to lead us in that. Yeah. So give a round of applause as he's coming on stage. Philip. Yes, Philip.
So thank you so much. So before I start, I would like to ask Mr. David to write up for recognition. So let's clap for him. Let's clap for him. Thank you so much, sir. We are honored to have you here. So I want to read. There you can have your seat, sir. I would like to read the citation. Okay, yeah, sorry. So Mr. David Ojimba is a Nigerian engineer and strategist focused on advancing Africa's productivity through innovative finance and sustainable energy, holding degrees from Covenant University and Eindhoven University. He started in front-end engineering at Cora, where he helped build its technology foundation and later led the front-end team, driving its growth as a Pan-African payments company. Today, David serves as a director at Kelani Engineering, where he helps drive innovation in energy and infrastructure, and as head of Treasury operations at HarpFi, formerly Tosipay, a UK-based global cross-border payments company. His work bridges finance, technology, and sustainable development to solve Africa's pressing challenges with world-class solutions. So on this note, I would like to invite Mr. David on the stage.
Thank you very much. I was listening to that, I'm like, is that me? It's such a great honor, and it's just so good to be here. When I walked into the hall, I remembered I think it was the first Hot Prize competition we had in CU, and we had pitched kind of like this to a board. We are doing like the pre-selection before people who go on rather to represent Nigeria, and it was something like this, right? A lot of young people who had dreams from the most outlandish things. For example, at the time, what we were pitching was a container farm that was mechanized and industrialized, and the idea was that you're meant to be able to grow vegetables and all of those produce in Lagos with no land mass. We didn't get it, of course, but it's that idea, the desire to build more, the desire to do more, the desire to, I have an idea, I want to see this through. I think it's very interesting how when they asked how many people want to work in a company, a lot of people were keeping quiet. Well, good luck to you. I think what you find out is that the entrepreneurship journey is very interesting. And that's a bit of what I want to talk about today, especially as I'm giving the first speech that heralds every other speaker that would come on. I'm just kind of waiting for the slides to come up. All right. While we do that, right, I would start with just asking, why do we want to build? Because of course, this is, right, Techfest, and the entire premise is building. And there are a lot of people here. I see all your hopes, I see your ambitions, I can see it in your eyes, right? And why is that important? Why do we want to build? Can I get, is there like a mic I can get to get like responses from 2 or 3 people?
Okay, so why I usually
Sorry, your name, please.
Hi, my name is Udeme Bong Umo.
Yeah.
So, to me, why I usually build a lot of things is just a matter of asking why not, because I'm usually one that has some that just at any moment I can just there's just this idea that might come to me, and I might just ask myself, and I might just check if it doesn't exist and say, wasn't why shouldn't it exist? And then I just build it, and then I can see that it just actually improves.
Interesting. I think that's interesting. Does anyone else have another idea as to why they build?
All right. So the reason why I want to build is basically because of sustainability, number one, and impact. So last week I was going through the life of people: Abraham Lincoln, Nikola Tesla, Kim Kardashian, all the great things they have built. And it boils all back to one thing: they want to change the world. So why do I want to build? For change.
That's super interesting. Okay. Well, start from the first slide before this. All right. I think we can just so we can because of the time. So today, first off, that's a beautiful answer. But today I'll be talking to you about building hard things. Like I said, my role here is to form the foundation for everything every other person will say. When I found out that I was the keynote speaker, I was like, let me not go and fold my hands for the other people. My friends here, they'll come and say other things, and I'll go and set the wrong foundation for them. But like I said, we're in the Builder Conference, right, or Build Fest, right? And I think it's important to discuss about building hard things, right? And why it is important in Nigeria today, especially because a good majority of you will be in Nigeria, and a lot of your solutions would affect Nigeria, right? And why is it important to build hard things in Nigeria? Next slide. So we've gotten a couple of answers. Yours matches it's fun and to test things, and there's also sustainability, right? And I have had the privilege to talk with a lot of startups and founders and just young people trying to do great things. And I always ask them a why. Why do they want to build this business, or why do they want to do something that they think is, very important? Because you have this idea that my idea is so important, but why is it? Why is it important? Why should we care? Or rather, why should you care? Next slide, please. And especially when you talk about building as an entrepreneur, right? You find out that in practice, being an entrepreneur wouldn't answer the questions that you had in your mind when you started building, right? You have it in mind that I want to test things out. And then you start testing things out, and you find out that testing things out costs money. Or you try to approach sustainability, and then you see that regulation does not allow you to be as sustainable as you want to be. Or there's something that is, or you're just disenfranchised. It's like, okay, after I do a lot of things, right, it doesn't seem like it's moving the needle. And this is a very popular thing that happens with ideas. But I want to draw your attention to the fact that we build and we create to enforce our ideas on reality. Everyone has an idea of what the ideal reality should be. You believe that electricity should be more available, for example, or you believe that people should be able to have access to food at the snap of their finger if you want to do a delivery app, or you believe that let's use any example, even if you're selling footballs. You believe that football should be available to people, right? It is your idea of reality, right? And it is when you try to build, you're trying to enforce that reality to the world. It's the expression of your creative ability that God has given you to enforce your idea into reality. And the world is very unyielding. It does not care about your ideas, right? It doesn't want to be molded. The world is not happy with not knowing its boundaries. The world wants to be bound, right? And so it is a hard thing to do to enforce your idea on this world, right? And this talk, basically, like I said, is not going to tell you how to build, right? It's not going to tell you the way to build. I'm just here to help stoke, that fire and say that, I want to do this. I want to create this idea, right? Why is it important for me? And why should I choose to go the hard way, right? Because there are easy ways to go, as we would see. And why should I go the hard way? So next. So my name is David Ojimba, as you've heard. And my claim to fame is that I was part of the founding staff of Cora. And our CEO, who you would hear shortly, right? One of the things that he always berates me for is that I like doing hard things, right? He would see me and say that, there's a simpler way to do this, but I like doing like the hard and in my opinion, the important things. And like I said, my goal here is to indoctrinate all of you to my side of life, to do more hard things. Next. Right. Now, a lot of people would say building in and of itself is hard, right? You want to build an app. It takes time. It takes money. It takes things, right? But I want to classify ways we solve problems in 3 different areas, and then we see what I mean by hard. So when I talk about doing hard things, I mainly mean creating, right? So if you have problems, you see, there are 3 ways you can approach them. You can imitate, see something that is existing in the market. You believe that, you know what, food delivery is moving fast. Let me get on the hype, right? Because my perception of reality is that I should not be broke. And so how do I not be broke? Is that I can jump on a hype train. So imitation is a way. Another one is innovation. There are a lot of existing things in the world, and then you take that, you add a bit of improvement, right? And then you present it in a new context. A context that might not have been heard of before, or a context that is unique to your experience about how you want to see life or how you want to see that problem. And then there's creation, which is thinking of something new. I use an example as using a mouse, right? When Steve Jobs found, I don't know how many people know the story of how we started using mice, right? Okay, no. So there was a company called Xerox, a research lab, and Steve Jobs, they had developed a mouse, right, that to use with computers. And Steve Jobs went there and said, he saw this and he was like, this is the next important thing for computing. And a lot of people didn't see that. Even Xerox didn't see that. Now, were the individual components to build mice there? Yes. Right? But no one had put them together in a way to have what a mouse that you would have. And so that's its creation. So it doesn't have to be from brand new sources. It doesn't have to be inventing a brand new thing. But you can create from existing things to bring up something new. And when I say hard things, right, I mainly mean creation. Now, it's a war of ideas. I've basically alluded to this particular slide before, and it's the fact that we can imitate, we can improve, right? But imitations don't stick. Imitations don't stick. Being privy to the fintech industry in Nigeria, I know how many have risen and fallen, right? And I am not even at like founder CEO level to know even why they have risen and fallen, but they've just been so many. And this doesn't mean that all of them have been imitating, mind you. This means that when you imitate, you're building on a shaky foundation, if you will, which means that if anything happens, regulations change, you don't have money, right? Something happens to the founder, right? It's very easily crashes, right? Innovation would have a bit more moat, right? It will have a bit more stability, but still, it's still subject to the person who actually creates, right? And that's what this represents. There's a war of ideas, right? And the ideas that will stick, they are not just complex in code, they are also complex in context, right? The company each and every one of you will build that will last past 5 years, it's not going to be because of how beautiful your code is. As an aside, when I led my tech team, right, that was something I tried to let them know that any random person can code as much as you can. And now AI can do it, well, not better, but to a fair extent, right? The difference between what you do and ensuring that your company sticks, your idea sticks, your perception of life sticks and stands the test of time is the context at which you present it, right? And presenting those contexts, presenting your idea in that context, right, is what causes your ideas to stick. And of course, like I said, the world does not love the concept that it doesn't know its boundaries. The world doesn't, and this is not a bad thing, by the way, right? This is a great thing. How would you feel if you did not know if the school was going to be running tomorrow? Right? Everyone would be very upset, right? So that's it. The world needs boundaries. And so if you're going to introduce something, you're going to have to work with a world that doesn't want you to extend its boundaries. And so you need ideas that stick. Next. All right. So let's talk about the Nigerian context. Right. Why is Nigeria important? Right. A couple of you probably do not want to build for Nigeria, but I am also here to encourage you to build for Nigeria, right? Because every of the companies you celebrate here today, they are Nigerian focused primarily, and there's a reason why. Nigeria currently has 60% of the population as 25 and younger. Now, a lot of people have heard this statistic a lot. It's a very common statistic, but have you actually thought of what that means? Right? Apart from employment, this means that at this very moment, your mates are writing how your retirement will be. Right? 2050 is not far. A vast majority of you will not be 50 by 2050. Right? So, your mates today are determining how you would retire. It's a scary concept. And I think if it scares you, that means that somebody has to do something about it. Right? But that's enough about this guy. There's also the bright side. That in the same 2050, when you be retiring, you would have the third largest population in the world. And will be the 15th largest economy in the world by 2050. Meaning that at this point in time, well, of course, there will be a lot more people, but your ideas that seem to be built for a market that has more money. This would be the market that has money, right? This would be the market that has a lot of money because it will be the 15th largest economy. And this is disregarding anything from, right, presidents and all of that, right? There's very little in terms of the economic changes that can steer us off this, right, by the projections, probably by just a place or two. And so this means that we really do not have the time to work on things that are not important, right, for Nigeria at this time. There's an urgency to do things that are not pleasant. There's an urgency to do the important things that will put Nigeria in a place, because let's even say the economy bit is not given. The population bit is a given. We are already over 200 million. So this means that 2050, if people do not rise up now and do harder things, infrastructural things, right, we are going to have 400 million people, right, and just have 2% of the population. Okay, 2% of 400 million people is 8 million. And mind you, that 2% today is the amount of people in Nigeria that earn over 250,000 naira. Right? So there is a very, very big opportunity, and it's an even bigger challenge, and it's a very hard challenge. Right. Next. But yeah, let's say you've heard me, you've been inspired, and you're like, okay, let's do this. And how do I do it? You can't build as though you're in the US. Again, a lot of people have heard this from different founders, right? I think one thing even Paul Dixon has said a lot is the fact of how Nigeria, and it's not even specific to Nigeria, Africa can humble you, right? And you can't build the way you build in the US. But how do you build? You need to build people first. The first product you will ever build is people, including yourself. Right? I think everyone needs to know that the first thing you will ever build is people, including yourself. You will build yourself through changing your mindset. Something that you thought wasn't possible. You need to change your mindset to see it as possible. You need to move from the country is always bad, for example, to there's opportunity here. Because it's only by changing yourself and changing people around you that you're able to see opportunities for change, right? If you're going to run a startup, you're going to have to hire people. You need to build those people. Those are the first products that you have. Because if your people aren't good, if your mentality isn't good, 3 years max. 3 years is even a lot. 2 years, right? Your company will no longer be existing. So no matter how great your idea is, no matter how brilliant whatever you want to do is, if you don't start with building people first, right, it's dead. It's dead on arrival. So the first product we build is people. We build ourselves, we build our staff, we build the people in our surrounding. The second is we build culture. This is easier after building people. Note how I've not said anything about products, right? Because you build people, you build culture, you create the behavior that allows your product to work, right? Let's take food delivery for example, right? When food delivery started in Nigeria, who remembers Jumia Food? Oh, I thought I was the only food person here. Jumia Food, you could almost bank that your food was coming 3 hours. You can bet on it. There are people who ordered food today and it came the next day, right? you could bank on the fact that it was never going to come early. As a matter of fact, if it came early, you know that is an act of God, right? And it was terrible. Now, is there anything dramatically different between Jumia Food and Child Deck? One would say perhaps Child Deck is more operationally efficient, and because they have more. Jumia had a lot more money than Child Deck. One can also say that people were not into it. People were ordering food from Jumia Food, right? The biggest difference between a Child Deck and a Jumia Food is the creation, like the culture that was created, that this should not take this long, and it's because of that mindset that this should not take this long that they had to expand to figure out how can we ensure that we can build a very robust logistics team. Bicycles were never used to deliver food in Nigeria. Bicycles delivering food is a very new concept. It's barely 2 years, no? Right? But now, it's very likely if you, not in school, but at home, if you order food, it's almost 7 out of 10 is a bicycle that's bringing the food to you. Right? And that comes from a concept. That comes from creating a culture where we must effectively deliver this. This is who we are. We are solving this problem by effectively delivering this food properly. And that's from a culture of quality, a culture of execution, right? Because it's that culture that leads you to start thinking of new problems, so new solutions, right? So we create culture, and by creating culture, we build systems. Now you have the right people, you have the right culture. It's very easy to then say, do you know what? The right people doing the right things is a culture, right? Let's package you in a nice system that we can then push and churn out products from it. And that's how a Child Deck, for example, I'm not sponsoring, they didn't sponsor me, but it's okay. A Child Deck, for example, got a lady that no one would have assumed would be making a lot of money. They just featured her that she had processed over, was it 1 billion or 2 billion naira worth of food, right? Very unassuming shop, because of they've gotten the right people, they've changed their mindset, they've gotten the right culture, and then because of that, they're able to build the right systems and help someone from a small shop sell 2 billion naira worth of food over 5 years. That is a lot of food to sell, right? And you will not believe how much work goes into that, right? Operational wise. But that is because they're not able to build systems. And because when you build systems, you build hope. Now, you can order food and expect it to come in 30 minutes. You see 30 minutes on your app, you can believe in 30 minutes. As a matter of fact, if it comes 1 hour, you can start arguing with the delivery person that, where's my food? Before, 1 hour, you order your food and you sleep. You order your night food in the morning and you just plan for that, right? And that is it. So everything that we see in Nigeria, in Africa, in the world generally, really, right? Any situation that seems hopeless is because people have not been built. Culture has not been built to support these people. Systems haven't been built. And you can't just jump to hope. Right? You can't just expect things to quickly jump to the next, to become better. These steps have to go on. Next. Yeah. All right. So we've talked about how to do it, right? But it comes with risk, and this is the disclaimer that we give after we finish inspiring you. One is that people might never see you for a while. nobody would hear your name for a long time. Sometimes it can work. I was reading the story of a young man who I was reading the story of a young man who invented a new LiDAR system. So of course, I don't know, are we all familiar with electric vehicles and driverless technology? This is a tech. Okay, yes. So one of the technologies by which the car uses to see is LiDAR, right? And it was incredibly difficult and required very big sensors to use, right? And at a point in time, Elon Musk had basically just given up on it and said that it wasn't practical in a car. And we have this young man in his garage who had been building for 5 years. Nothing, nobody heard of him, nobody knew of him. He built, run tests, do hackathons, building, nothing happened. He presented that as to contest Elon Musk's claims, and people were like, you know what, this is nice, right? It works, but it's okay. I think it won probably a small price, and everybody just forgot him. Fast forward another, was it 2 years, right? Volvo wants to do an electric vehicle, and they remember, oh, we saw somewhere that there was one competition that this guy did something, had done this, right? And that's how they found him, tested it and found out that it surpassed their imagination, and signed a $100 billion deal with him, and all of a sudden became a billionaire. Today you still don't know him, mind you, right? But that is what happens to people who build hard things. Generally, they are not known. Sometimes they are. One of the people I really admire the most in the Nigerian tech scene is Tosin, the CEO of MoneyPoint, right? If you knew MoneyPoint's story, you know that they've done the work. They've been at it for a while, right? And a lot of people just know MoneyPoint from 2019 now, but they've been at it for a while. When they were first T-Max, for Modify, they've been at it for a while. And even Cora too, we've been at it for a while. There was a time that we were even worried about if we're really working. But we thank God that delay is not denial. So there's delayed recognition, and you play the long game. And why should you play the long game? Because it's important, right? Why should I invest 3 years into a startup or an idea? Doesn't even need to be a startup that I think can change the world, simply because it's important. Simply because of the idea you have about the world is valid in the world, right? The idea that God has given you concerning the world is valid to have it a reality. And you might not make a lot of money, right? A lot of times the inventors don't make money, it's the distributors that do. However, does that mean we should stop inventing? No. And you can be fighting against a system that doesn't want you. You can be fighting a system that is against you, which is very true in Nigeria. But still, should that deter us? No. Because, like I said, it's important. And you always will win. In one way or the other, you will always win. So that's the last slide. And I will just leave you with one final note. Oh, sorry, I just skipped this slide. I've basically spoken about this. But if we do not build hard things, we settle for survival, not sustainability, because we depend on systems that do not understand us, and we give up our ownership for the future. Right. Yeah, so I'll leave you with one last thought from Matthew 7, verse 24 to 27, where Jesus talks about two people who build houses. Right? One builds a house on the sandy soil, and another builds it on a firm foundation. Right? Building houses on rocks is hard. It's a lot of work. It's grueling work. It's not exciting. Right? Building houses on sand is fast. Right? It can present as though you've made it quickly. It can present as though, right, success has come immediately. Right? But which do you want to be? Do you want to be the house built on sand, or do you want to be the house built on rocks? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. Thank you. And from what he said we should learn to build what? Hard. We should learn to build what? Hard things, yes. I remember a popular Nigerian artist sang, he said, go hard or go. Yes, so we have a Q&A session with Mr. Ojimba. So let's ask our questions. How can we build hard? So in this session, I'll be giving the mic to Mr. Ojimba, right? And then I'll also give you can sit down, don't worry. Then I'll give this mic to the people who want to ask. So we have Q&A for 10 minutes. So let's ask our questions. Who's going first? Yes, who's going first? Anyone? Oh, someone is over there. Please come forward. Thank you. Give him a round of applause as he's coming forward. All right. Yeah. So if you have questions, you just indicate, right? So let's go. Okay. All right. So, yeah, your name and just a quick introduction and your question.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Arenika Shisamotimitope, and I'm into AI engineering and software engineering. So my question for him is, for me, I get a lot of ideas. Some of them I cannot implement them. Some implementable. Some half done. Some finished. And I want to ask, how do we know which one is the right idea and which one we should build and focus on?
I think the first thing is try as much as you can, right? As much as you are able to do, right? Why this is important is because of you. No matter how diverse your ideas might seem, you don't know it yet, but they are around the central point, right?
Yeah.
Yes, right? So the more you keep on testing, what you're really doing is that you're fine-tuning your idea of what that main point is, right? So you do it with one idea, it might seem different from the second idea, but you learn something here, you learn something in the second, you learn something in the third. By the time you're at the fourth, you know exactly what it is you want to do, or you know exactly what is the problem you want to solve, rather, right? And then you have clarity at that point. So it's try as many as you can. Let the limit just be how much you can execute. But one thing that should be your constraint is that don't try anything that you're not able to do properly. Right?
Thank you, sir.
All right. Next questions. All right. Okay. All right.
All right, so good day, everyone. You spoke a lot about hard things, so I'd like to ask of the hardest thing you built and the lessons you have learned from it.
Very direct.
The hardest thing I'm building it now. Okay. During my 400 level of my third year here, I just like I advised that young man, I was trying many things, right? I tried coding. I had tried network engineering. I had actually written my CCNA, right? And I tried a couple of things, all to run away from power, by the way, because I did elect, right? And then we did this power systems course, and I just knew that that was what I wanted to do. How I was going to do it, I did not know how I was going to do it. I just knew that I want to figure out a way to get cheap electricity. However, now, between 300 level and now is almost 8 years. I have delved into all sorts. Oh God. I've delved into these perpetual motion machines. I've delved into design of generators and drives. I've delved into my thesis project was on grids that share electricity together. I've done a lot of different projects that have brought me kind of to where I am now, and also the mix of finance. And I'm still not yet done building, but I know that that is what I want to do, right? And it's very hard. Power in anywhere is hard. Power in Nigeria is incredibly hard, and it's incredibly expensive, right? And so I may not look it, but I'm not a billionaire. So I have to figure out how to make things work. And even for billionaires, right, it's also hard. There was a story about Davido's father, who it took him 10 years to get his power platform. It's hard, right? And so that's the hardest thing I've built, and I'm still very much on the journey.
All right, so this will be our last question, right? So I'll be taking the last question, but that doesn't stop us from taking more questions. During the lunch break, we'll have the time to network. So after this question, we'll proceed with the other part of the event.
So I actually have two questions. So the first one of the things you started with is finding that your idea is important and useful in the society. How do you decide that? Because big people like Facebook, he started with, he wanted to send a message from where he's sitting down to someone who is sitting down probably the other end of the country. And that seemed useless to everyone because like people have been living their lives writing tellers and everything. So how do you decide? Your idea may be innovative to you, but how are you sure that it's actually important to the economy if eventually you get successful? That's the first one.
Yeah.
The second one, I'm actually just very curious. You said something about perpetual motion machines. So I'm just curious about that.
So I'll answer your first question. So what I said really is not finding an idea that is useful to the world. Is finding an idea you believe in and enforcing it on the world. Right? There are two different things. It doesn't matter if your idea is important to other people. If you want to make it important to other people, you would make it important to other people. Right? The entire premise of building is making sure that what I think is important to me is important to you too. Right? Because even the ideas that you think are useful now, right? An argument could have been made at the time they were done that they were not important, right? That it was a waste of time. Right? It's like we are already doing other things. Do you get me? If somebody comes and, for example, take the Hyperloop, a lot of people think is a pipe dream, right? But if there's a working Hyperloop, all of a sudden it becomes important, right? So it's by bringing your idea to life that it becomes important to people. That's one. Then I don't want to encourage people to look into nonsense. So forget perpetual motion machines. You can Google them, but they are nonsense. So yes, let's leave it like that.